Welcome to the No Place Like Home podcast about missing pets. We are recording live from my home because the studio was kind of washed away by the flooding in Barre, Vermont. But normally that's where we record from, thanks to the Aired Out podcast and the Fly on the Wall productions. I'm your host, Mitch Bernard, and today we're going to be talking about, appropriately enough, handling missing pets and found pets in disasters and preparing for them. So with me today is the founder of Frank's Way Foundation, David Scherf. David, thank you. Welcome for joining me today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I'd just like to start by asking you a little bit about the organization itself, how you got started, who's Frank, who was Frank, and what the organization does.
Well, long story short, it is quite a long story, but 2017, I took my boat out with a gentleman I just met, my dog Frank, who went everywhere with me to help the people during Hurricane Harvey. Little did we know that we were the first people to be there it's called Katy, Texas. It's a small suburb. So quickly we found out that we were by ourselves. In a series of events, we were rescuing people, putting them on the boat. And a little girl fell overboard. So my bulldog Frank, who never liked the rain, the water, anything, he jumped in after her. So
oh my gosh.
The gentleman Tim I met, that's the Marine flag in the back. There's a backstory to that. But
nice.
He went in after, he got the girl in the boat, went after Frank, and I had to get the family to safety, which wasn't very far. Come to find out, because I wasn't from that area, both of them were swept under a train bridge, and further down, it was a tiny, tiny creek that turned into a massive, rush water. So we got Tim back. He was up in a tree. His military training taught him to do that. And then I had to rush him to the hospital because he was in such bad shape. So from his hospital bed, I vowed to him I'd find Frank. So for the remainder of 2 weeks, during the daylight hours, I'd look for Frank, and at night we would help people all across Houston and Louisiana. After about 2 weeks, I found Frank. He did pass, but I brought him home, and Tim came from the hospital, pulled out everything out of him, and helped me lay Frank down for his final burial place. So that's where this flag comes in my background. This flag was in countless operations overseas, and Tim's a Marine, and he said, Frank's a Marine now. He wanted me to bury that with him, and I just lost it at that point.
Yeah.
So this goes with me everywhere, just to honor him, and that. So that's where we started. So but now what we do is every natural disaster since Harvey we've personally been to. So just a way to honor him.
Wow.
Help,
Yeah. That's amazing. And how many of you are there?
So we have about 200 volunteers. It's just dependent on work and whatnot. Sometimes we have 10, sometimes we have 100, just depends.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're all over the country.
Are those usually people who are already in those locations, or do you take them with you to?
It's a little of both. The vetting process is so hard that I try to, spend a lot of time with people and train them and whatnot. So, but yeah.
So, what do you train them to do?
Oddly enough, it's the little things. Not knowing where you can get fuel. That's a big thing. You can't go too far if you can't get fuel. Keeping the vehicles themselves safe. It's a lot of common sense stuff that people don't know. But so yeah,
those little details that kind of you take for granted when it's normal times, but then in a disaster like a flood, everything changes. Everything's different. Everything's harder.
Exactly.
So once you guys get on the ground, what do you do, say, in a flood situation like we have here?
So generally what happens is the affected area, it's so vast. I get asked that quite often. Anywhere the news is where we're not. So what generally happens in all This is all natural disasters. The areas that the news covers, the little towns, hang on, I have a dog jumping on me. Whatever town that, or whatever area that's in, there's so much aid that floods into there that they turn people away. So if you just go off of that area, um, there's always people in need. So
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I tell everybody: stay away from the news.
Yeah. And you're focusing on the pets, the people, both? I mean, are you like mucking out homes or?
We are an animal rescue.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell people 90% of the time it's the families that own the pets that we're helping.
Sure.
There's just such a great need for everything that just to say that we just help animals, it's too hard to just help one. So
sure.
Yeah.
That's great work that you're doing. Do you have a job in addition to this? Is this now your full-time work?
So prior to me starting the foundation, I did have a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
I totally quit that to pursue the foundation, to do it full-time.
Yeah.
Then COVID came, so that changed everything. So actually, I work part-time. I'm a mechanic, so.
Oh, nice. I'm sure that comes in handy.
Yeah, that's why I'm so good at what we do, because I'm always fixing the stuff in the field and whatnot.
Yeah.
But, all of my customers, they knew Frank or they knew what I do. So hurricane season, generally, I don't work.
Yeah.
So.
So I want to ask you a little bit about what people can do, pet owners can do during a disaster and to prepare for a disaster. I'm not sure which of those makes sense to do first, but maybe you know.
So the biggest thing is pre-preparedness. I try to teach people to be as proactive as possible, but never reactive. The best thing is have a good a plan. Have a collar on your animal is a big thing, believe it or not. But just have something in place if something happens, so you can do that. Have extra water. I know the little collapsible bowls and just the small leashes. Having all that stuff, like I keep one in each truck. There's one readily available. Little packages of food. You can put them in Ziploc bags, whatever. It's a little overkill, but if you live in the areas that receive, natural disasters, it makes a world of difference.
Yeah, I'm sure along the Gulf they've got go bags all the time for.
Yeah,
like that.
I know. Since COVID, a big problem is a lot of people they're at work when the disaster strikes. So that, have a neighbor's phone number, someone you could call just to get them quickly.
Right. Sure, that makes sense. Know your neighbors. Make sure a neighbor has a key. Access code to the security panel, whatever.
Yeah,
true.
During a disaster, it gets a little chaotic. I know when I was looking for Frank, there were so many different little websites and apps to find missing dogs, and there was so much misinformation that I just said, I can't do this. I'm going to just go look for him myself. So that's something that's been changing, and it's getting better, but make it easy. Put a tag on their collar. Have usually the little metal tags, they rip off. Use a magic marker and write on them. Some people will actually write something on their animal, on their belly.
Yeah, I saw that maybe on your website. I can't remember where, but that seemed like a pretty smart idea.
It's so chaotic, and it's so, I can't even put into words how it is, but the problem we face is each state is different for how many hours. Like, say I were to rescue your animal. There's a period of time in which, after that period of time, if no one comes forward, then the animal becomes my possession. So it's hard because a lot of these out-of-state rescues they're doing a good thing. They really are, and they feel we save this animal, but they don't really see that if you lose everything, that you can't get your animal in time. So it's hard.
Those stray holds that every municipality, every shelter is going to have different rules, like you said, and some of them where I used to live, I just moved to Vermont in March, but I moved here from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and in that region, each municipality, each borough, township, city, whatever, has its own contract with some individual or company for animal control, and everyone has its own rules and practices, and there are some with terrible reputations, and there's, that, oh, they don't even wait, they euthanize right away, they don't have a stray hold or anything, or they wait 12 hours or something, and then others that will wait 3 business days or 5 business days or something. So it is really useful, I think, to know not just your own municipality's rules, but those of surrounding municipalities, especially in something like a flood where there's movement from,
Yeah, it is.
place to place.
Yeah, and I mean, microchipping's a big thing.
Absolutely.
It's so chaotic and people don't sleep. Just make it as easy as you can for the people
Yeah.
handling the animals. The other thing I see a lot is the animals will literally, we had some in Louisiana that within days they were in Colorado. So now you have a family that lost everything and they can go get their animal, but they have no means to get that far.
Yeah.
So, it's a problem that's never going to go away. There's just, since COVID, all the shelters that I know of across the country, they're all full, like beyond full. Throw a natural disaster on it and it's even worse. So, it's all our problem.
That's
We
true.
all have to fix it. So,
oh, absolutely. I mean, overcrowding, even without any of that stuff, is a problem. And what I see shelters here doing, and I saw this in Pittsburgh too, is shelters and rescues in anticipation of a disaster would ship every adoptable animal out that they could to other areas, to shelters in other places like Colorado, so that when an animal is found during the disaster, it's able to be kept local, as much as possible. So that brings us to, if we're during a disaster, like we had the floods here, what do I need to do as an owner? Maybe that's different from what I would do during normal times, if my cat or my dog goes missing.
So the first thing is don't panic. The worst thing you could do is panic. The people that it takes time. Even I know you call a shelter, like you guys just had the flood. You call a shelter, they don't even answer the phone. 911 doesn't answer the phone.
Sure.
You have to be as calm as possible in a very unsettling time.
Absolutely.
Start looking close, and then start to search out further.
Right.
That's the best thing you can do, and just put everything in place. I know it's so hard with people's jobs nowadays to where it used to be before that, say something is coming, most businesses would shut down and say, hey, stay home with your family.
Sure.
And it's such a diverse thing that it's hard to, people don't want to lose their job. I get it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's that bad and you have to do that, and this is something that it's kind of, some people don't like me for saying this, but you need to give your animal the best chance.
Yeah.
So don't keep them chained up. Give them a means to get out. They're smarter than humans are, to where they know the weather better than we are, and they'll get out of a situation. Cats are the best in that. I rescue cats the fewest, and the ones I do rescue are the ones that are in crates, the ones that are stuck. I think cats do amazing things. Same thing with dogs, but if you have no escape, then there's nothing anyone can do. So,
those are sad stories.
So
and how about finders? I mean, is there, I guess with different jurisdictions and these different shelter rules, you might have different advice for different people, but is there kind of a universal thing that finders of pets can do?
So most people don't have microchip scanners, but if you have, like I said, I sew on the inside of my dog's collars their information, just a phone number, anything. Because not many people have chip scanners. So if you have that, generally, and this is the thing, especially in hurricanes that I notice, as bad as it is, people are at the nicest they'll ever be. So if they see that and they see a phone number, you're going to get a phone call. So giving them that little bit helps. I've even seen zip ties around their collar, whatever it is, just something, to get a hold of them.
and I've seen collars that actually have them embroidered on there. You can embroider the pet's name or phone number or whatever. That's something I've
Yeah.
thought about doing too. That's tougher on a cat, but I'll post in our show notes some recommendations for kinds of collars you can get for cats that are a little bit safer than a regular collar.
Yeah, and you can put them on them temporarily, like until the
Yeah,
storm passes or
when you know
whatnot.
it's coming. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the good news is that with flooding is that we had some advance notice that it was going to come, and we continue to have that in the forecast. So that part isn't so nice. But I guess, earthquakes and mudslides and hurricanes, maybe less advance notice, or I don't know. Yeah, I've never really lived anywhere that there's been anything like this before. So it's really eye-opening to see.
So it's the number one thing I get, and it drives me absolutely insane, is I get it. It's expensive to leave. It's expensive
Yeah.
to, go to a hotel. I myself have 5 dogs, so I can't just go to the Best Western.
Yeah.
But all too often people will tell me, well, I was here for this hurricane or
Right.
this fire, and we were just fine. So I've been to over 20 hurricanes myself, countless other things. They're never the same. And until you see the true power of nature, even the people that fight fires and meteorology, we don't know anything about it. So if you have the means, just leave. Take a vacation for a couple of days. That takes a big stress off of us because anyone that's doing rescuing, you have your pet that we have to rescue, but there's also all the shelters, there's also all the farms, there's all these animals that need to be taken care of. And sadly enough, people come first. So if you call local law enforcement or even animal control, they're first, and this is, pretty much every single one of them, their first course of action is to stabilize the area. So that doesn't have anything to do with animals. That's just people. So, that's just the nature of the beast. So just be prepared. I mean, that's my motto with everything. Just,
One thing that has been very helpful here is that the Barre City Auditorium is where people are sheltering who've been displaced from their homes, and they are permitting pets. So that's not always the case, I know, in a lot of jurisdictions. So I would maybe advise our listener to lobby for that. If there's no kind of disaster shelter that permits animals, try to work for that for the next time that there is a disaster, and there will be, because climate change is real, people. Sorry to say. So if somebody listening wants to help Frank's Way Foundation, how would they do that if they wanted to volunteer or donate or whatever?
So you can go on our email or our
website.
It's been a long day. You go on our website, or we're real active on Facebook and Instagram because we do live videos. I just put the camera. It's safer for us. I just put the camera and let it roll while we're doing what we're doing. But any social media, just reach out to us.
Cool. I'll post the links on our show notes.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. And if they want to volunteer, they can go through this training with you, or that's maybe an option.
Yeah, we do different things. I mean, you don't have to be in the field. Believe it or not, the people on the computer do more. I get that a lot, Rick. I wish I could be boots on the ground, but believe it or not, the people on the computers they help us more than anything else.
Oh, that's good to know, because I'm one of those people who's much more able to do computer. I have some health issues, so that's good. Good. That's really good. So I want to thank you very much, David, for being here, and listener for joining me today. We're going to have links to everything that we've talked about in the show notes, which, sorry, I'm reading. I haven't done this so many times yet that I've got it memorized, which you can find along with resources for owners and finders on our Facebook page, which is NPLH, as in No Place Like Home, Mitch. We always appreciate a rating and review on your podcast app and a follow on Facebook. If you have questions or feedback, you could send them to me on the Facebook page or email me at nplhmitch@gmail.com. And until next week, this is Mitch. I hope we'll be back in the studio next time. And remember to always think missing, not stray or dumped. Thanks, David, very much. It was a pleasure to have you.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.